Welcome to the Sanctuary Podcast. Angel Deer is a medicine man and offers his work on sacred land through shamanic healing, energy healing, sound healing, breath work, plant medicine, and workshops and events. The Sanctuary is a community for all those who seek healing, transformation, ancient wisdom, and a place to come together to create a new way of living and relating. This is the Sanctuary Podcast, and this is Angel Deer.
Hello everyone, welcome for this new episode. I'm recording from the Sanctuary here in the Catskill, and I wanted to talk to you about resistance. And resistance is something that happens so often, consciously and unconsciously, and it's such a big part of spiritual development and personal growth that I really wanted to spend some time on it. So what is resistance? So first, it's more than just us saying, no, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to go there, or I'm not interested in exploring that thing or that one. It's more than just not moving forward or saying no. It's the power of your unconscious mind on something it does not yet embrace. So we all experience that in many ways. Sometimes something is too scary for us. It's too new, too different from our belief system. And we go into resistance. And the mind is going to play the devil advocate. It's going to give you all the reason why you should not do things based on what it knows. And anything that's around expansion, newness, is going to be refused. And the mind is going to bring you into a state of retracting and probably recreating the same thing over and over again. You're going to repeat bad habits and continue to have unhealthy habit of eating, for example, or not going to the gym. You might start meditation and stop. You might recreate the same type of relationship over and over again. And all that is the mind fighting expansion of the soul. So one part of us wants to change because we are conscious that those habits or whatever we've been doing is not working properly. And I've a lot of examples of clients I work with which have bad habits of eating or unhealthy habits and social behaviors or around drugs or around drinking or around their work ethics or even a relationship. So everyone is conscious of that. So one part of us want that change, but there's another part of us that doesn't want it, and it's usually much stronger because it's driven by fear. And to understand resistance, we really need to talk about fear. And I have an episode just about fear, so you can go and look at that episode later. But basically, our bike brain, our reptilian brain, is driving our life so many times. And this is why we probably have survived for so long. And this is why we're such a resilient species. So it's a good protection system. But fear also can block us from exploring new territory and going to new things. If you think of life 10, 20, 30, 50,000 years ago, which is when our brain was formed and evolved over the last few 100,000 years, we had to stay in our tribe to survive. We had to be like the group and stay within the group. We have to stay in the cave where we were living. Any separation from the tribe or from the group would have mean that we would have died, probably unable to find food, but most of the time just died from animals or an attack or bad weather or things like that. So resistance is more often unconscious. And the way it plays today, we are not 50,000 years ago anymore in a cave where wild animals are running after us. The way it plays today is that we are not going to take the step forward that could allow us to be more free, to be more happy. So we are going to be late to the gym, or we're even going to forget the appointment. We say, I forgot about it. I didn't come. Or we're not even going to book a session anymore with our coach or with the person that could help us. We know we have something to do, but unconsciously somehow we have this resistance. So it's not like you're in front of your teacher and your meditation teacher say, I don't want to do this anymore. It's more that you might never even take a meditation lesson thinking that, oh, you don't really need it, or maybe it's not going to change anything. Even if you know consciously that it would change your life, that it will allow you to sleep better, for example, or have less anxiety. So it might come consciously as, no, I don't want to do this. Your mind, your body, everything is going to say no and want to retract. And the issue with resistance is that it's going to block your evolution. So yes, resistance is part of your spiritual growth and your enlightenment, if I may say, your spiritual evolution. And the way it plays is that it allows you to pause for a moment from the growth that is happening and to reflect on it. It's like a cycle, you go into phases of growth and then things may be too different, too overwhelming, and you might need to pause for a moment. And resistance is that conscious mind or that unconscious mind that is basically waiting and looking at how is this new environment for you. And you might start say, you know what, no new things for me right now, no evolution is possible. So there is that pause where you might take some time to evolve again and to do new things. The way it shows on your path might be very different. And I'm going to give you a few examples that I've witnessed recently with people around me and clients. The first one is around meditation. And I think it's an easy one because we all probably wanted to meditate at some point in our life. We all know the benefits of it. It's in all the business magazines and spiritual magazines. It's pretty, known from everyone that if you meditate, you're going to have better sleep, have less anxiety, be more healthy. It's changing completely, in fact, the quality of your life in so many ways. Meditation is available everywhere. You might have a teacher near you, or you can take courses online. There's apps for it. But how many of us are not meditating every morning? How many of us are not even going to class, even just once a month, to kind of know more about meditation? So that's a typical example of resistance. It's out there, it's available, we know it's better for us. It will only give us benefits, but we're not doing it. On the path of healing, it's another area where resistance is very often obvious. And it's probably harder to understand. People might be dealing with emotional trauma or mental traumas or physical traumas for many, many years, sometimes 10, 20, 30 plus years. There is possibility of healing out there. There is possibilities of people helping, but we might not do it. Or we might go once and then stop thinking, oh, it didn't work, or it's not for me, or it's not good enough, or it's not what I need now, and go back into old habits of eating unhealthy, or not going to bed early, or overusing media, or having a social life. That's all out there, and we don't have time to think in there. So resistance is going to be to show up in your life all the time. And I want to give you a method on how to go through resistance and block without having resistance paralyzing you. And it's a method that works pretty well, and I've been testing it for many years with myself and with people I work with, and it's the only way to really work with resistance and not against it. So the first step is to recognize that there is resistance. And how do we do that? Well, basically there's always resistance. So assume that you're resisting. Assume that the change that you really want, some part of you are resisting to it.
You're listening to the Sanctuary Podcast with Angel Deer. While you're listening, browse the website at www.thesanctuaryheal.com.
So it could be changing jobs or career. It could be finding a new relationship. It could be changing cities or place to live. It could be changing your diets, going to the gym, learning meditation, starting to play a musical instruments. Anything that you know would be great for you and that you desire, but somehow you've been procrastinating around the idea of doing it and finding excuse. It's not the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the mental space for it, I have other priorities right now. All this is resistance. So recognize, allow resistance to just come into your mind. Okay, if that hasn't happened, there is part of me that are resisting. The second thing to do is to look at the story that you have created around it. And what I mean by that is that you probably have some valid reason to resist. Like I said earlier, sometimes we go into phases of pause in spiritual growth or in personal development, and we might just want to take some time with it. But you might have created more story around it, that you cannot do that it's not for you, that it's not possible, that in this life, that's not what you are about, that somehow you cannot do those things that other people can do. So look if you've created a story around it. And a good way to do that, and that's kind of the third step, is to say, well, if this were to happen, so for example, if I were to meditate every morning or every day, then blah, blah, blah. So you fill the blank. If this were to happen, then this will happen. And it could be a blockage that you have around success, for example, or financial success. It could be a blockage that you have, like I said earlier, around moving to a new place or a new job or a new type of relationship. And try to look about that deeper story that is maybe there. And you might see that resistance, in fact, is linked not to rational things, but to stories that we have created so we could stay in our comfort zone, we could stay in our cave, we could stay in our tribe and not explore. You're a spiritual being living in a human body, and your soul, your spirit is infinite. It doesn't have boundaries, but you're living in a body that have boundaries. And so there is a tension all the time between the soul that doesn't have resistance and the mind and the body that have resistance. And so you're able to look at resistance and say, okay, it's a condition that's happening, but my soul, for its evolution, needs to go through that. So once you look at the story and why maybe you're creating more resistance than needed, you have to allow it and accept it. If you start fighting resistance, be against it and create more energy around it, you're going to develop the resistance. You're going to make it a bigger story, a bigger monster in the room. And it's going to be very, very difficult to change it. So make sure you recognize it. You look at the story you've created. Use phrase like, if this were to happen, then this will happen. Allow and accept it. And the last step is to use your heart to allow it and to feel it by being kind, compassionate, and loving towards yourself. If you continue blaming yourself, oh, I haven't done that, it's been 10 years, I want to start music, play an instrument, or it's been 5 years that I want to change job and I'm still not, and you blame yourself, you're going to go to a state of contraction. And the more you contract, the further away you get from your soul, from your purpose, from your heart energy. On the contrary, if you allow your chest to expand, if you allow yourself to breathe in your heart, if you allow yourself to practice self-observation, and I teach a method of self-observation which is based on letting things just be and looking at them, feeling them in our body so we don't create a story in our mind, and letting the body relax and the breath carry that energy, then resistance is going to be transformed. You're going to see what is the deeper story behind it. You're going to take that leap of faith that you need to go through that transformation. So I hope you learn how to look at it. Obviously, it's not a 20 minutes podcast that can allow us to transform that, but I wanted to give you some guidance on how to look at it. Remember always that one part of you wants the change and wants the evolution, but one part of you does not. And that part of you that does not is driven by fear and by contraction. And remember that for your own spiritual growth, for your own path, for your own evolution, you need to work with resistance, not against it, to be able to understand what is a deeper story for your personal life, for your past, so you don't limit yourself. And whatever you're creating stays small when it can become really much, much bigger. When you don't create stories around who you are and how people think of you because you've pictured yourself that way. You don't resist the evolution and don't become who you're supposed to become. So resistance is a pause. It's a bit like a breath in the cycle of growth. I like to look at resistance like the seasons. So we look at spring and summer right now as beautiful season because there is flowers and growth and new trees and new plants. That's expansion, that's growth, that's when we are in the flow. But then fall is coming and the winter. And we might look at winter, say, well, this is a dead season, nothing is happening. But in fact, we are getting stronger for preparing the next spring. The trees are growing roots, the plants are resting, and they're getting ready for the next cycle of growth. Your life is done of the same cycle. Expansion, pause, maybe some retraction, and expansion again, and then pause. And maybe some retraction again, and some expansion again. And the goal is to make sure that you expand more than you contract, that when you pause, you allow the pause and you see the importance of it, like winter are important, and that you allow the rhythm of your soul to go through your life, to be the rhythm of your life, and don't make your life and its rhythm just a contraction, just a resistance process where your soul cannot burst completely alive and fully. So I hope you learned a little bit about resistance. I hope you spend some time recognizing in which areas of your life there is resistance. You can listen to the podcast around fear and around also the journey, the path of the hero, my other podcast. I think both of them can give you more guidance around this area. And if you're interested, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to give you more detailed exercise and to work with you on the specific resistance you have in your life and give you more tools and a program to get through them and to finally set yourself free. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoy the podcast and I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks for a new episode.
You've been listening to the Sanctuary Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, we're a source of talks about spirituality, personal transformation, energy healing, shamanism, and earth-based practices. For more, visit thesanctuaryheal.com. On the website, you can find out about our events, our retreats, healing offering, our spiritual blog, and you can also register for the newsletter. Again, visit thesanctuaryheal.com. Till next time, this is the Sanctuary Podcast, and Angel Deer signing off.